Captain Samuel Larson, call sign Razz, pilot and commander of the F22 Demo Team. I just completed my first year as the pilot and commander for the team. Been flying the F22 for about 6 years and active duty Air Force for about 8.
Razz, what's up, man? Welcome to the Pilot podcast.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man, anytime. I'm excited to talk to you. I don't know if I've had too many F-22 pilots on. I've had a F-35 guy on. I believe he started the F-35 demo team, so a little bit of you guys can go back and forth to see who did a better job.
Sounds good. Yeah. Sounds good.
Well, cool, man. Well, let's get started. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about how you even got into aviation. What was the initial kind of motivation for you to start flying or even want to fly?
It was air shows for me. So I grew up in Davenport, Iowa, had an air show taking place just a few miles from the house I grew up in. Went every year growing up, fell in love with it. Was immediately enamored by it, wanted to be involved in aviation in some capacity, and then meeting pilots from demo teams is kind of what illuminated the path forward for me of wanting to join and be a military aviator, serve as a fighter pilot. So was an air show nut and aviation fanatic, and then went off to the Air Force Academy for college. And then after the Air Force Academy, went to pilot training. I was very fortunate to start flying the F-22 right out of pilot training.
What air show did you go to?
So it was a Quad City Air Show. Was in Davenport, Iowa. It was my local show. And then as I got older, I actually started taking pictures and writing articles for an air show magazine.
Cool.
So I went to air shows all around the Midwest. So yeah, pretty much all your big air shows in the Midwest I was going to growing up.
Big Oshkosh guy?
Big time.
Yeah.
Yep. Never got the full experience really because we would just drive up. We didn't have any really aviation background in my family, so we would drive up for a few days and just be completely blown away by it.
Yeah.
But I had not flown an airplane to Oshkosh until this past year, flying the Raptor, and yeah, so. Which was awesome. Yeah. I love Oshkosh.
Well, so. They don't make you do that crazy visual approach, do they? I'm guessing the Raptors get to just come on in and shoot straight.
We were ready to.
Yeah.
I was reading through the Oshkosh NOTAM. I wasn't sure, but no, they gave us some open airspace.
I was going to say there's Raptor
which was a lot of fun. Yeah,
that's so cool. That'd be funny. All right, go around, go back in the pattern.
Yeah, right. We were ready to if they wanted us to. So
that's cool. I love that. Coming from someone like you just said that doesn't have any kind of aviation background in their family, how was your family supportive in that way? Where it's like, all right, well, I mean, we don't really have a basis for how to get you into an airplane, how to get you flying. How did that all kind of come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. They were extremely supportive. They're not aviation, nuts like me, but they were willing to go out to these air shows and take the time to introduce me to opportunities to talk to folks and get advice and mentorship. So they were hugely supportive of that and getting me again before the age I could driving around to air shows in the Midwest. They just saw how passionate I was about it, and they did everything they could to kind of give me those opportunities to grow and seek out that dream. So they were instrumental, I would say, in the journey. And even though they didn't have the requisite knowledge or the ability to, pay for flight lessons or things of that sort, they did everything they could to try to help enable me get on that path. And I'm eternally thankful for that. And again, they were hugely important in me getting into the Air Force Academy and helping me with that process, and then encouraging me along the way. So I owe a lot to them.
What did that process look like for you? Because I'm guessing at an early age, you're kind of like enamored by whatever's flying, whether it's F-16s, whatever it might be.
Yeah, you bet.
I want to do that. But was it, I want to go to the Air Force Academy from the get-go, and you from 13, 14 were doing Eagle Scout or everything you could, getting a letter, all that kind of stuff? Or was it more of a late preparation for you?
Yeah, that's another great question. I had no idea. I had no, dream to go to the Air Force Academy or any military academy per se. I just knew I wanted to fly airplanes and fly jets. So I was constantly seeking out that advice and mentorship, and I had no idea what I was doing. But the pilots I talked to were like, you got to have good grades, participate in sports or things you enjoy, be well-rounded, work ethic and attitude will get you anywhere. And took that to heart and then just tried to have as many doors open as possible when I was graduating high school, which is the advice I give to youngsters now, is try to keep as many doors open as you can going forward in your life. So Air Force Academy for me was kind of, I started my application in my junior year. Once I got an appointment, I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to do. Wasn't sure if it was for me. I'm very glad I went that route, but I was very skeptical and hesitant when it was time to decide. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that, because that's a big decision in life, kind of where you're going to go.
Was there an alternate route at all? Was there like a side path that you thought about doing? You know, going to University of Colorado in Boulder and just hanging out and flying somewhere? Like
No, absolutely. I was looking at all kinds of aviation programs.
Yeah.
In the Midwest, there's a few, and then I was looking at like the Embry-Riddles of the world, things of that sort. So, yeah, there were definitely alternate paths, and again, I wasn't really sure. I was second guessing myself a lot along the way, and ultimately, I'm happy with the choice I made. But
did it come down to one or two, like two schools, or was it just kind of like, yeah, I guess I'll just go here. This works.
No, I'd say because I wanted to go kind of delve in the aviation world, Embry-Riddle Daytona Beach was definitely up there when I was thinking between the Air Force Academy or going to do maybe an ROTC program there. I think there's just so many great options, and there's no one path you have to take to get to your goal. It's just really comes down to figuring out what's going to be the best for you and your personality and your goals. So.
All right. So you make the decision. You're going to the Air Force Academy.
Yep.
What was the first couple of weeks like? Was it like, holy smokes, what did I get myself into? How do I get back home? Or was it like, this is awesome. This is definitely what I was meant to do?
No, it's shock and awe getting out there, and not at all meant to be enjoyable. Starting out there. So it's some getting used to, definitely outside of your comfort zone, which turns out is a good place to be. And I like to say that when I showed up to the Air Force Academy, it was the start of me feeling like I was the dumbest person in the room. And what I've really loved about life so far is that every step I take, I feel like I get to a better room and a better room, and I keep feeling like the dumbest person in that room. But if I keep getting into that better room, I feel like I'm doing something right. So, Air Force Academy was a start of really getting outside of the comfort zone and starting to figure out some abilities within and ability to kind of work through the challenges and obstacles. And again, it's a phenomenal place for growth. And it's constant. One of the best things about the Academy is constant challenges that are designed to push you outside of your comfort zone, which I think is really good for preparation in the future. But it was challenging all 4 years. First year is designed to be the worst. And then I was very fortunate. I got to be a part of the parachute team there, so I got to jump out of airplanes my sophomore through senior year, and then a little beyond graduation. So about 700 skydives. Again, doesn't directly necessarily translate to flying, but I enjoyed it. I love skydiving, and there were definitely skill sets from being on that team that I thought transferred into the future. So.
When you were at the Academy, was it eyes on being a pilot the whole time? Were you doing everything you could to make sure you got a slot, or were there a couple of different avenues you're thinking about going down?
No, it was eyes on being a pilot for me. That's not necessarily the case for everyone there, which is surprising to some folks because there are 30 some odd careers you can go to out of the Academy. But I did want to fly the whole time. As far as what I was going to fly or set my aspirations to, that fluctuated a little bit. But knew I wanted to fly.
What was the pathway for that? Because I mean, you said that not everyone wants to be a pilot, but I'd like to think that the majority of people that are going to the Air Force come in there thinking they want to be a pilot. So it's a lot of people that are going for a minimal amount of slots. I'd say, like, obviously they can't let everyone be a pilot. So how did you kind of like differentiate yourself from everyone, and two, kind of like how did you kind of keep the course and make sure you're going on the right track?
Yeah, absolutely. So it fluctuates every year in terms of slots available. So out of the Air Force Academy, I'd say on average, maybe half the class will go to pilot training. Again, but that ebbs and flows like anything else. So there's luck and timing involved in that part. But it was really going back to the roots of the advice I had gotten, years before, which was work ethic and attitude. And again, the Air Force Academy is really where I felt like I was started to hit my stride and figuring out what I could do with
Mhm.
work ethic and putting in the extra work. So it was grades, it was extracurriculars, things of that sort. The academy had all kinds of algorithms to rank you in the class based on academic, physical fitness, and military performance, as well as some of the subjective officerships type stuff. So it was just hard work and having a good
Mm.
attitude and not letting the daily grind get to you, and then keeping kind of a humble mindset. So
Yeah.
really, the stuff that's applied the whole time, these universal concepts really work anywhere, and that held through from high school, college, pilot training, and beyond. Was always going back to advice I'd gotten from mentors at a young age.
Yeah. Which is easier said than done, right? Like not every day is going to
Yeah.
be great. What were some of the
Yep.
struggles you had maybe going into, or not going into, but in the academy as you know, everyone kind of looks back on it and thinks about how great it was and you laugh on all the bad
Yep.
times, but in the moment it feels like it could be the world's coming in. So talk a little bit about
Absolutely.
what you had.
Yeah. So getting used to being out of the comfort zone. Some folks I've seen, when you constantly get pushed out of your comfort zone, having to do things like jumping out of airplanes for the first time, going through basic training, going into like boxing class and fighting classes, things that you don't do at normal schools.
Right.
Some folks have a tendency to retreat back to your comfort zone and just try to get back to again a feeling of comfort. And I don't want to get pushed like that. The people who I've seen who excel really embrace that growth opportunity and run with it, and then seek out more opportunities to be out of their comfort zone and seek that growth. Those are the people who I saw really excel at the academy and in other situations like that. So that's something I had to learn was to force myself outside the comfort zone. And then I'll tell everyone, I'm not the smartest, most athletic. I had to work for everything, and so I was in tutoring constantly at the Air Force Academy with the heavy science and engineering and math curriculum. Um, and I'm proud of it because it got me where I wanted to be. So nothing necessarily came easy, but it was a lot of late nights there of
Yeah.
struggle and a lot of monotony in that lifestyle, or it can be. Um, but just keeping the eyes on the prize and remembering the dream you had when you first started and letting that fuel your decisions each and every day.
Yeah.
One of the things that happened to me along the way, I actually saw an F22 demo at an air show here in the Midwest when I was on a break from the academy, and was very moved by it. And immediately, that's where from all the other stuff that you could fly, that's where I was like, I want to fly F22s. I thought it was the pinnacle of flying. And so from that day forward, I would envision every morning me going up at drop night on assignment night at Air Force pilot training and seeing an F-22 flash on the screen. And that just gave me a little motivation. But then it was time to come back to the present and let that goal, again, influence your decisions and influence your work ethic. So, again, that's something we try to pass to folks we talk to now is
Yeah.
go out into the future, envision that goal, and then come back to the present and start making it happen. So,
Was there a nightmare plane that would pop up you ever think about? Be like, oh, no.
yeah, there were a few, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to name any of my nightmare planes because I think all airplanes are cool. And especially now as I've gotten more experience, there are just cool aspects to every kind of lifestyle
Yeah.
of different platforms you fly. So,
Definitely. It's all different, right?
Yep, it's all different.
Yeah. When you're kind of talking about like just like a 4-year grind at the Air Force Academy, do you feel like looking back on it, you missed out on that normal college experience? When you see maybe your friends from high
Yeah,
school that are like going to Iowa, going to Iowa State,
yeah,
where it may be, and they're just living it up, or what you think is living it up, right? You're there putting
absolutely.
their goal, and they're kind of just like partying. So do you think you got the same experience, or you wish you would have had more of a similar experience? Or are you pretty happy? I mean, obviously you're going to say you're happy with how it turned out, but
Mhm.
um,
Yeah,
do you ever wish that you had a different kind of college upbringing, or not upbringing, but college experience?
that's another great question. I will tell you at the time, absolutely. Talking to my buddies who are at other schools,
Yeah.
I was like, man, I made a mistake. But then again, as I went forward, uh, the opportunities there, things that I loved, again, were some of the things that really pushed you and the challenges, some of the physical fitness stuff you had to do there, the combatives classes, the boxing classes, the water survival type classes, all these things that some people would say sucked, I really enjoyed. And then I was very fortunate at the academy. Again, being on that parachute team I was part of a very tight knit group um, of folks, like minded folks, and really called them a second family. And in between classes, no kidding, got to go jump out of airplanes and got to instruct other cadets and active duty airmen jumping out of airplanes, being a jump master. So I had an absolute blast starting my sophomore year, really, into through my senior year. I was like, this is the greatest college experience I could ever dream of, like jumping out of airplanes and getting to travel all the time across the country, getting to jump out of airplanes.
Yeah,
I thought I hit the jackpot. So once I got to start doing that and looking back on that, it fit me perfectly. And it was an opportunity I would not trade for anything. So I love that. Again, what I tell folks, you can go anywhere, and again, it's up to your personality. And then looking for opportunities, like I knew going to the academy that I wanted to be like a parachutist. I thought that was
yeah,
a really cool opportunity there. So if you find something like that, then you're going to be set. You're going to really make the most of your time and enjoy it. But it's not for everyone, and you can be an F-22 pilot or any goal you want to achieve by going to any school. So
it's true.
I would not disparage any other school, ROTC, going through officer training school, whatever you want to do, or if you want to go to college and kind of grow and mature and see if it's something you actually want to do without any commitment, that's fine too. Again, the universal principles of that work ethic and attitude and humility, they're going to apply anywhere, and they can get you to the same end state. So,
Yeah. What's the burnout rate, or I don't know if that's the proper thing, but washout rate at a university or an academy like that? I had a buddy that went to the Naval Academy, and I mean,
yeah.
I've heard some crazy stories about like people ending their lives or doing just like crazy stuff to get out of there. Is it
Oh,
some
yeah.
kind of stuff there at the academy too?
It's a challenging environment. I want to say again, it's not universal. It ebbs and flows. I want to say I started like my class started around 1200, and we graduated around 850.
Oh wow,
Um, so I think there's definitely attrition in every class. People who
right?
decide you don't want to do it, and then you have no commitment to the Air Force by going to the Air Force Academy until you start really your junior year. So you do 2 years there, decide it's not for you, you leave. You don't owe anything. So there's definitely a way out, and a lot of folks do, leave that first year or second year, and then once you are committed and owe
Yeah.
time, then obviously that attrition drops off.
Well,
So
it's like you said, those first 2 years probably the hardest 2 years. Like it probably gets a little bit better after that.
yeah, I think it does. I think it
Yeah,
does for most folks. So
yeah. All right. Well, you're working your way up to the F-22. Like you said, it's always kind of been your goal. That's what you wanted to
hmm
see when your name popped up. Talk
hmm
about getting to that point. Like, do you get a pilot? So, do you get awarded a pilot slot first, and then obviously you're going to do some more testing, and then you find out what plane you go to, or do you find out what plane you're going to immediately with that pilot slot?
yep. For active duty folks, you don't know what you're going to fly when you go to pilot training. If you are hired by a guard unit, which again is another great option, then you go into pilot training knowing that you're going to fly that aircraft for that
Mhm.
guard unit. So it's a little bit of a difference there, but yeah, you get a pilot slot, go through initial flight screening out in Colorado, and then at one of the four undergraduate pilot training bases, you start. And everyone starts in the T6, and from day one, you're in competition essentially. Um, really in competition with yourself. You are going to get rack and stacked against your classmates, but it's all about being the best version that you can be and being the best teammate you can be. And again, I've said it many
Yeah,
times, but pilot training was also really where I saw work ethic, attitude, humility. That's what it takes. So it's a
yeah,
year long, 55-week program. They've changed it a little bit since I've been through, so I don't want to misspeak. But if you're going to go the fighter route or bombers, you'll track select a T-38 after the T6. If you're going to go the heavy route into a T1, and then helicopters is a separate route. So then you go through the T30, and it's not till the very end of the program where you submit a dream sheet of aircraft you want to fly, kind of ranking. I pretty much ranked the entire inventory from 1 through 30 something. And then you get rack and stacked. I think I had 26 folks in my class, so 1 through 26, and they basically just marry up
yeah,
how you did in the class, and if your airplane that you want to fly is available on that drop. So once again, it goes back to some luck and timing. the aircraft you want to fly may not be available at that time. But again, you just do the best you can and see where things end
That
up.
whole process, what was the most difficult plane for you to kind of get your mind around? You know, like you said, you probably start out in the T6 and you move up, but when did it get to the point where it was like, holy smokes, this is way different than that? Was it right in the beginning when, maybe you had like 6 hours in a 172 and then you're flying a T6 or was it T6 to the next jet? Kind of talk about that.
Yeah, that's another great question. And I tell folks now who are going to pilot training, everyone's going to fail, and it is designed that you will fail at some point, and everyone fails at different stages. So being able to get over your own failure, because that's tough. It can feel like the world's ending, and you're not going to get to do your dream. Being able to get over your own failure, accept feedback, and move on, and then also being a great teammate when your classmates fail, and being the person that they can rely on. Hugely important in pilot training. For me, it was, early on, I was, again, way outside the comfort zone flying the T6. I think I screwed something up and failed a flight way early in the program. I'm like, I'm finished. So, again, I had to learn how to fail and internalize it and move forward, move on. I also think instruments blew my mind a little bit, and it was fire hose approach. Like, we were in the phase where we're out in the aircraft flying aerobatics in the T6. We're doing classroom work on formation stuff, and then we're in the sims flying instruments. And you could do all those events all in one day, which makes it difficult trying to stay in these different disciplines. And instruments kind of blew my mind because I had flown in Iowa a little bit, where I'm looking at a map and then following rivers and towns and stuff. And I'm like, this is how we navigate in airplanes. And, the instruments blew my mind the first time. But I'd say early on were most of the struggles, and then started to figure it out. And then it turned into a lot of fun when you start flying solos and formation solos, ships and T-38s and stuff like that. It got really cool. So,
did you have any flying experience before? Did you have a private or anything, or a couple hours?
Yeah, I had a few hours, as much as I could afford. So I had, I think, about 20 hours in a Piper Cherokee flying around, again, kind of Wild West style here in Iowa. But no private. And I mean, the program's designed for someone who has no flight experience. And I think it can help you, depending on kind of what you've done in the past, or it can hinder you. It all depends on the person, but it's certainly not required. So
I was about to ask, do you think it would have helped you? But I guess you get into that. Just obviously be good to have that basic, right? Like you would kind of be, you would have a better opportunity at the beginning, but then once you guys get to IFR, the next phase, you're all going to be back to the beginner, back in the same standard anyway. So it helps you for a little bit. Maybe for confidence, it's good.
Yeah, I think basic airmanship and confidence, but I mean, there's so many things you could pull from the past. I thought skydiving helped me a lot.
Oh, cool.
And then just being a part of a team had helped me a lot. There's guys who played, college football who think there are transferable skills there. So it's hard to pinpoint it down other than work ethic and good attitude. Those are the requirements. So
how do you mentally, like, obviously you mentioned how it's a competition between your peers, but it's a competition between yourself. How do you mentally kind of take that on a day-to-day basis, where obviously you have to do better than 27 people to probably get the plane that you want, but you also want to be there, and they want to see you be a team leader or a part of a team. They don't want to see you be like, I don't want to say a loser, but just like the jerk that pouts all the time, right? Like you got to find a way to kind of handle that adversity, really learn how to compete, but understand that it's about everyone, not just by yourself, which can be really difficult because it's a very selfish situation. You want to fly the plane you want to fly, and you have to be better than that. How do you kind of go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'd seen people who had done it incorrectly, who had treated it more like, hey, I'm competing against everyone. I've got to be the best, even at the expense of others. And that really does not work out well for folks. I reached back to my time again on the skydiving team or on sports teams, kind of how I interact with folks. I think that's really important, having that team foundation. And then it was just early on in pilot training, and I would give this advice to anyone who's going to it, is to recognize that you are going to be competing to be the best version of yourself. And then the humility piece, I think, is really important and sometimes missed. The ability to stand up in front of, say, all your classmates and admit that you failed something and made a mistake so that they do not make that same mistake. If your thought process is, hey, I'm giving away the secrets, and if I tell them how to do something better, then they're going to do better than I did. It's just such a wrong mindset and such a, you're not thinking about the big picture. So I would tell folks, keep your mind on the big picture. And you want to go through pilot training. You want all those folks who are in your class to remember you, that you were credible, that you knew your stuff, and that you were just a phenomenal teammate that they could rely on. And you're going to be friends with those folks for the rest of your life. And I promise you, it will not come at all at the expense of your ranking if you're that type of person. In fact, it's going to help you because there is the subjective portion to this, where instructors and folks who are evaluating you are evaluating, is this the type of person we want to put in a fighter squadron where we do depend on cohesion, brotherhood, things of that sort? Are you that type of person that fits that bill? And if you're a person who admits their mistakes and seeks to make others better, then absolutely you're gonna do better. So,
well, it's all about trust, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're the best pilot in the world. If the people next to you won't trust you and are second guessing their decisions based on what you're going to do, then you're really hurting the team. And it doesn't matter how good of a pilot you are, you're going to eventually hurt everyone else. So,
absolutely.
I'm guessing you're the best pilot in the world. Like, that's going to get you pretty far, but eventually it's going to come to get you.
It really can't get you everywhere. You need the right mentality. You need the humility is not talked about enough, in my opinion, but humility is such a big part of it and what we look for in folks going to fighter squadrons, and just that ability to be a teammate. Because most folks, you can teach them everything. You're going to be able to teach them the left and right hand and the skills, but being just the right character and the right mindset is so important.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I guess what kind of hurts is, you got like Top Gun obviously helped in all those movies, but then you kind of get like the bravado of being Top Gun, right? Like they teach you how they think that's how you're supposed to think. So, that's interesting. It'll be kind of an interesting social experiment to see how you take two people, two different ways to think about it, see how far they make it. So be good TV.
Absolutely.
You are, so you're getting the F22 Raptor. You finally find out that's what you're going to do. Your first flight in that is solo in the plane, right? Do you go through a simulator first, or they don't have any dual trainers, right?
No dual trainers. We do pretty robust sim syllabus prior to ever touching the aircraft. You pretty much go all the way through a instrument check ride in the sim, where you are certified to handle essentially every emergency that could occur. And then you go out to the flight line for your first flight, and you'll fly as a two-ship, so you'll be flying with an instructor and another F22. So you'll be going out, following him or her around, and then doing some basic aircraft handling out in the airspace, and then come back for landings and kind of pattern work, and they'll kind of chase you around in the other F22. It's about 2 or 3 flights of that, and then you're already into the BFM, starting to fight the aircraft phase. So it moves pretty fast and furious. But
how nervous are you the very first time you're sitting in F22 and it's like you just have this millions upon millions of dollars that you're sitting in? It's like, I mean, I have never flown this before, and they're just going to let me go do this thing. I mean, obviously you fly a sim, that's pretty similar, but I don't know, it just feels way different when you're talking about F22 versus like a Citation or an Airbus.
Very expensive. You can't screw this up. So old knees weak, arms sweaty, right? It was nerve wracking. Fortunately, I feel like most of the nerves happen when you're really, doing ground ops and your mind's not completely occupied yet. You're just thinking about, please don't screw this up. And nerves and adrenaline. But then as soon as we take off, immediately started reverting back to the sim training and getting focused up. And then it was just awesome. Kind of out of body experience type thing, where you're so focused on what you're doing. And then by the time you land, the adrenaline wears off. You're like, holy smokes, what just happened? So I just remember early on being extremely nervous. I don't remember anything about the flight other than thinking this is awesome, but being very focused up. And then at the end, just being elated. So.
Yeah. When you, as someone like me, that's say I'm at Oshkosh, I'm seeing you guys do some crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. What's it actually like doing that crazy stuff? All the vector thrust, all the crazy maneuvers that you do, like what's it like inside? Does it, I mean, it probably doesn't feel abnormal to you anymore, but the first time you're doing it, you're just pivoting on a point in an airplane in a fighter jet. It doesn't make any sense at all. What's that?
It's definitely something to get used to. The amount of G the aircraft can pull, I remember that was eye-opening because you've gone from just flying a T-38 all the way to this 9+ G capable, and then the thrust. I mean, the amount of thrust you have early on can almost get you in trouble. We call it getting on the pain train all the time, where you're pulling for all you're worth, 9.5 Gs, and the jet's still accelerating, and the only thing you can do at this point is pull the power back to slow the thing down. We've had folks go accidentally supersonic because the jet can super cruise, and you think, I'm in a climb, I'm in mil power, so sub burner. Certainly, I'm not accelerating, and you're looking outside, and next thing you know, you're supersonic. So the thrust and the maneuvering capability was a huge learning curve. And then even after doing it for years, and now doing it in the demo, doing that low to the ground was also eye opening. But it is a violent ride up there. A lot of positive to negative G stuff. I'm constantly bracing myself. We have towel racks, handles we call them, where you can basically, put your left or right hand to brace the body for the G, positive or negative G. So I'm constantly turning up our throttle friction, which is a knob on the left hand, so where I can just throw the throttles in burner and then grab the towel rack and brace the body. And then the G strain and all that stuff has become second nature. So now once I got experience and got over, again, the initial pain, it's awesome. And I really enjoy it. It is a constant adrenaline rush, and the ability of the jet to really do anything you want it to do and have the thrust to get you out of mistakes. It's awesome. So
have you flown anything else since then? Like, are you like cruising around on 172? It's like trying to do some crazy stuff in there. Like, well, this sucks. This is boring.
I know I love flying in anything I can. And I was up in Alaska for 3 years. So that's where I did the majority of flying on the outside, was when I was in Alaska. So I flew, got my float rating, and flew a lot of float planes, and then
cool.
got my tail wheel and flew some Cubs and Citabrias, things of that sort. I had a blast. It's just different. I thought float flying was just absolute bliss. I loved it. And then I loved flying bush planes as well. It was very challenging and different. I wouldn't say. I just think it's different, and I think there's just so many awesome things you can do in aviation. I've enjoyed flying the Raptor, but I'm seeking the next stuff as well, next opportunities. Yeah.
Is your goal to kind of go airlines, keep flying, or you think you want to just fly for fun?
That's a great question. I am enjoying flying for the military right now. I'm flying the F22. I still have time left on my initial service commitment, so I don't have the option to get out. But if I did, I would stay right now because I'm enjoying it. That said, this job of flying the demos has been eye-opening, getting to interact with so many folks from different disciplines in aviation. And there's so many cool opportunities out there. All I know is that I want to keep flying in whatever capacity I can, and seek out as many of those opportunities as I can.
And what's it been like knowing that you're on the other side now? So when you see all these little kids looking up at you, you're taxiing in your Raptor, you're saluting the little kids as you go by, just thinking about like 20 years ago, or 15, whatever, I don't know how old you are, but back in the day, that was you looking at those airplanes, and that you're kind of making a positive impact on these kids. What's it like being on the other side?
It fires me up. I love it. This has been some of the most rewarding time of my life. And it's very motivating when I'm getting ready to go fly and seeing that kind of stuff. And then when we're not flying, for myself and our entire team, we just want to go and interact with as many folks as we can. And we seek to inspire as many folks as we can to set goals because it was so profound, the impact that kind of stuff had on our lives. So anytime we go to a show, we're trying to stay there as long as we can, maximize our footprint, and that gets us all fired up because it is so rewarding getting to do that, and getting to see kind of that light in a youngster's eyes who's looking up to do this someday.
And you're talking about all the positives of being on the demo team or being in the Air Force, but there's got to be some things that you're like, dang, man, like this kind of sucks, right? Like, are you? I mean, you're not allowed to talk about, but like, what's kind of like the downside to doing the demo team?
Demo teams tough to find any because it is an awesome job. If I didn't have as awesome of a team, I could see it not being as great as it is. We have such
Yeah.
a phenomenal group of folks. Our superintendent, team chief, public affairs, our crew chiefs, avionics specialists. We got to handpick all those folks. And so even when we're in the worst situations on the road, we're getting hailed on, snowed on, trying to get the jets in a hangar. We're going through logistical nightmares, whatever it might be, delayed for flights. They make it awesome. And so they make the mundane or what could be the crappy moments, they make it great. So that's been cool. I could see the amount of travel we do, doing about 30 shows this past year, probably just shy of 300 days on the road.
Yeah.
That could be a
Dang.
downside for some folks. And
Sure.
the fatigue was definitely set in on me, but I don't know. After about a week off, I was ready to get going again because I love it.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks on our team love it. So I could see the travel on the demo team side being tough for folks, but I think it's the best job in the world, best job I'll ever have. And then for the combat squadron deal, again, phenomenal job. And there's nothing really better, but sometimes what could get left off is just the amount of time you have to commit to mission planning, studying, weekends you're going to give up to go into a vault to study and get ready for your flights throughout the week. I try to be honest brokers when I'm talking to folks, like it's going to be a lot of work and there's a lot of time. There's going to be sacrifices of time, whether it's your squadron getting on the road to deploy or even at home, the amount of preparation you're going to have to do. But for me, it's been all worth it because it is a rewarding job and it has turned out to be a great adventure. So
Yeah, I bet. Sounds awesome. I mean, it sounds like a dream job. Like, how cool would that be? Just to be the one ripping it up and above the sky, just shoot you
I,
down. Right?
I feel very fortunate, and I'm trying
Yeah,
to take advantage of every moment because I know it's fleeting and it's going to go
yeah,
by quick and it's going to be over. I am incredibly fortunate.
yeah.
Try to savor every moment of this.
You say it's fleeting. Is it time limited? Do you only get to do this for a certain amount of years, or is this something that you can do for however long you're in the military for?
It is a time limited job. So typically it's a 2-year tour. So it's pretty quick. 2 years sounds like a decent amount of time, but I just finished the first one and it felt like it went by in the blink of an eye. And I felt
Yeah.
like I just started yesterday. So again, trying to savor what's remaining of that time.
You have to bribe someone, be like, "Yo, let me get back in there. Come on."
Yeah, right. And we'll see what I can do, but I'm
Yeah,
expecting it to be just 2 years, and
yeah.
I'm going to try to make the most of it. So,
It's awesome. What was the process like from training in F-22, doing kind of your? I'm guessing you didn't go straight to the F-22 demo team. That's probably safe for more
mhm,
people that are a little bit more senior into the aircraft. But
mhm,
talk about you're finishing F-22 training, you're getting released and going on to your job, and then getting to where you are today. What was that process like? Because like we said, it's not A to B. It's not you going straight from there to the demo team. I'm guessing.
right. Yep. You do have to be an instructor pilot to apply to be on the F-22 demo team. So,
Yeah.
and that takes at least 3 to 4 years of maturity in the aircraft. Once you graduate the B course, we call it, which is about 8 to 9 months, you go off to your first combat squadron. You are a non-combat mission ready wingman, so you go through another upgrade to be combat mission ready. Spend about a year, if not longer, of just being a wingman, trying to be a sponge, learn as much as you can, and then eventually you go in through two-ship flight lead upgrade, which is a long upgrade, getting certified to lead two F-22s around in day-to-day training or in combat. The next step is a four-ship flight lead. Now, that's our typical fighting force, four F-22s, leading a four-ship around in training or combat. And then the longest and probably the most difficult of them all is the instructor pilot upgrade,
Mhm.
where you go through every mission set that we could fly in the Raptor and get certified as an instructor. So again, that typically takes 3 to 4 years, depending on the person, and then you're eligible to apply for the demo job, as well as a lot of other cool opportunities in the Air Force. So for me, yeah, I did most of that upgrade flying when I was in Alaska. That was my first tour. and then came down to Langley. I was in the normal line unit at Langley for about a year and a half prior to getting hired for the demo team.
Cool. What would you say was one big oh crap moment that you're allowed to talk about that you've had in the airplane where you're like, holy smokes? Do you
Oh
have
crap
any?
moment. That's a great question. I will tell you that this jet has been incredibly reliable. I should knock on wood, but
I'll knock on wood for you.
yeah. It has been like, as far as massive emergencies or the jet not responding like it should, especially in a low altitude situation, I can't really think of anything. I've definitely had maybe some oh crap moments in Alaska. One of them being flying at night in the winter in Alaska in a four-ship of F-22s when the sea fog, ice fog moved in, and there's not that many places to land an F-22 in Alaska, and things got very, 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 very quickly, and we went to a municipal airport out base with an extremely icy runway, and that was our only landing option, so I had to land one Raptor after another on a very icy runway. And we all made it all fine. There's some sketchy stuff that happened throughout that whole series of events. But the aircraft were undamaged, the folks were undamaged, and then we implemented some new procedures to not get caught off guard. Because Alaska can be a very unforgiving place to fly, especially in the wintertime. But the jet itself has been amazing. I can't say enough good things about it. So.
That's one thing I've never thought of. How does an F-22 handle icing? I'm guessing they're designed to fly in certain places, so they have to be able to handle some amount of ice. But is it like when you get ice, is that something that you're not really too fond of in that airplane, or you try to avoid it if you can?
We're actually not that worried about it. We will not try to fly in sustained icing, but we're not too worried about it. If you see buildup, we're just going to basically change altitudes, and I've never really had any issues with buildup on the jet. I haven't heard of really too many icing issues. It's a good all weather fighter. It handles the conditions really well. So
you can probably fly fast enough to where the wing never gets to the point where it's like ice anyway.
Yeah, I remember my T-38 days. We were very concerned with icing, but since I've flown the Raptor, that has not been something that we worry about much.
What's something that some like the average person, people have a general idea of what F-22 can do, but what's something that the average person doesn't know that maybe even kind of blew your mind that you could do in that airplane?
That's another good question. I think the range of capabilities of just talking airframe, if we don't include the sensors and all that other neat stuff, the fact that in a sortie you can go from 60,000 feet Mach 2, it can get there relatively easily in a short amount of time. And then in that same flight, you could be down low level, going between valleys and ridge crossings and mountains doing low level stuff. That would just blew my mind, how well the jet can perform in that wide array of mission sets and different areas. So I think that's one of the coolest things. And then some folks, again, don't believe the thrust capability of 70,000 pounds. And then again, the airframe, most I've pulled G-force wise in the jet is 9.9, and that's not an over G of the aircraft. It can do that. Which again, a lot of other fighters, you pull that kind of G, it's gonna be grounded for a while. So
that's crazy. And they also, so another thing that kind of just like, I've not great knowledge about military aircraft, but I've always kind of told you F-35 could kill an F-22 from like 100 miles away. I don't know if that's correct. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And then vice versa with F-22 with like F-16. But what would be like the worst case scenario for you? Like if you got caught up like getting up and close to the F-16, or like what's like a bad day or a bad situation for an F-22? Because all we talk about is how the F-22 and F-35 are these so far advanced aircraft that can pretty much take out anything. Is there anything that like could sneak? I don't know. Probably a lot of things that have to happen to make this situation happen. Was there any situation or any kind of thing that is like F-22's nightmare?
That's another good question. I would say that's a good question. First off, for the blanket statements of this aircraft will kill their aircraft 100 miles away, it's very difficult with modern day technologies and stuff to make any definitive statements of how it's going to play out. So an F-35, is going to have newer sensors because it's a newer airplane than us, but that's really hard to determine. Again, based on the fact that we're meant to be an air-to-air fighter, we both have capable radars and capable sensors. Yeah, I give the edge to them for having newer stuff, but you never know how it's going to go, and we're going to win within visual range against pretty much anything. And so for the F-22, yeah, we're designed to be that first look, first shot, first kill with stealth, but we're also meant to be a dogfighter, so we're looking to go tangled up, so we're not afraid to go get in that visual fight, especially after taking shots at range. So in the air-to-air arena, I would say there's not really anything we're looking to go pick the fight, and we're, whether it's beyond visual range or within visual range, the F-22 is trying to go. I think the worst case thing for us would be not working together as a team, so getting separated somehow, or having certain systems start to fall offline. So again, that's why I like to tell the stories of our maintainers, especially on the demo team. And those folks really are going to be our edge if we have to go and do a fight, because I know that those folks are amazing at their jobs. And my aircraft will go into the fight with functioning systems. And there's so many advanced technologies and systems and sensors on these airplanes now. That might be the difference. Whose arrays are working better that day? Whose sensors are working better that day? That's going to be the difference. And so that's why I'm very proud of the folks I get to work with, especially on the team.
Would you ever want to fly anything else as kind of F-22, kind of like your bread and butter, and you think you'd want to do that forever if you stayed in the military for a while? Or is there any other kind of airplane that's currently built, or maybe you know one that's not currently built but will be built, but is there anything that you could see yourself moving to?
I think I'll probably stay with the F-22, and I'm good with that. I really love the aircraft. I've always answered that question previously of, if I had to go fly something else, I'd want to do something different. So maybe an A-10. I think the A-10 is a great airplane. I don't know if that's how long it's going to be around or what the future holds for that.
They've been saying they're going to get rid of that plane for like 20 years.
They sure have.
Will be around before.
Yeah,
we're going to die before the thing's gone.
I know. Yeah, I do like that jet. So I'd go fly an A-10 if given the opportunity. But I think I'll probably stay F-22s.
Can you imagine just the difference in airplane going back to that? Like trying to learn that, like, wait, what?
Yep.
It doesn't.
Be cool.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Two totally different missions, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
As someone that people would look up to, and kind of, you kind of like made it in a lot of people's eyes with what you're doing, right? Especially since you were the kid on the other side of the fence. You see those kids all the time. You probably have the opportunity to speak to them. They're probably like, hey, man, how can I get in your shoes? Let's say like a 10-year-old's coming up to you, wants a picture, just wants some advice. What do you normally tell someone about going on that track, whether they're 10, 16, 18, getting ready to go into?
Absolutely. Well, I try to tailor it to the age we're talking to. But I've said it a few times on this podcast, try to give them the universal principles that I think are important. Hey, you got to keep a great work ethic, great attitude, and be humble and seek mentorship and advice. And normally what that boils down for the youngsters is working hard in school, working hard in your community, finding things outside of school that you enjoy, whether it's sports or clubs or hobbies, things of those sort, to keep yourself on the right path is very important. And then we tell folks, try to get to those decision points in your lives with doors open for yourself. You don't necessarily know when you're 10 years old, right, where I'm going to go to college, what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Most folks don't. But you can have avenues open to yourself and opportunities open for yourself. And if you're willing to go out and get outside your comfort zone, then those opportunities are going to become more prevalent and more apparent. So tell folks to not be afraid to take risks, not be afraid to fail, keep that good attitude. And then the last piece is enjoy the journey on your way to your goal, because that's where life occurs. So if you're constantly just thinking ahead about the goal and not enjoying some of the present, then you're going to miss out on a lot of life too. And that's a hard balance to do. It's easier said than done. So that's kind of the gist of what we talk about.
Yeah, and that goes back to anyone just doing flying in general. Like when I was flying a 172 or a Piper or Arrow, I was always looking at a jets that are taxiing by, like, man, I can't wait to go there. But now it's like you kind of look back at the small planes, like, dude, that'd be kind of fun to go rip around in an
Yeah,
Arrow. But yeah,
absolutely.
once you get to the jet, you don't go back a lot of times. Like it's
Yeah,
just kind of over, which is kind of
yeah.
sad.
And you're gonna miss that stage of your life. Yep, yep.
Absolutely. So don't miss out on the grind. A lot of people say you got to fall in love with the grind to get and love what you do. So definitely do that. I
Absolutely.
got a couple
Yep.
rapid fire questions for. Actually, I got one question first, and then rapid fire. But
Okay.
call signs. Why Razz? Is there a story behind that you're allowed to tell? That's
Oh, there is. Yeah.
PC. All right.
Most folks get named on their first deployment or trip with a squadron. So my first trip with the 525 Bulldogs out of Alaska was to Japan. So AZZ in my name stands for at Kadena, because ZZ you'll find on the tails of Kadena Air Base aircraft. So it just stands for at Kadena. And then the R means a whole list of things, which we could get into later at a later time. But a lot of the call signs are acronyms. And a lot of them,
Yeah.
obviously, none of them are chosen by the person who's receiving the name, but it's a cool ceremony. It's really cool how it works. And yeah, there's about 75% of mine. Yep.
That's what's up. Yeah, we'll talk about the rest in Oshkosh this year. How about
There
that?
you go. Yep. That's a deal.
Cool.
Yep.
Are you like at least proud of it? You know, some people are probably like, I don't want this call sign, but are you like okay with it or?
We say people always tend to grow into their call signs, whether you like
Yeah.
it or not at first. Yeah, so I have no issues with mine. I've got a buddy whose call sign is Taz, so we're Razz and Taz. We got named at the same time.
Cool.
I have fun with
There
it,
you go.
and I think most people do. So
Cool. I love it. All right, man. I got some rapid fire questions for you. These
Yep.
are just very quick. Don't explain anything. Answer them as fast as you can. Whatever comes to
Okay.
mind the first time. All right.
All right.
What's your favorite airplane ever made?
Raptor. Yeah.
What's a corporate jet if you have any, or airliner?
Ooh, corporate jet or airliner? That's a tough one. I could tell you like warbirds or other airplanes.
Yeah. All right. Let's go warbirds.
P-38 Lightning.
All right. There you go.
Yeah.
What's the ugliest airplane you've ever seen?
Oh, I could get in some trouble for this one.
Do it. Stir the pot.
I will be honest with you. I don't think there's an airplane I've seen where I'm like, I hate it. I don't want to ever see it again. I like airplanes. That's tough. Yeah.
All right. That's fine. The fake answer, but I'll get it. What's something you wish you knew before you became a pilot?
I'd say early on, just how I wish I knew more about how awesome of a community it is and how important it is to reach out to folks who are directly related to your career field or in different career fields, but seeking that friendship and mentorship throughout the community. The earlier you can do that, the better. And I wish I had known that earlier.
Yeah, it's not an easy industry to go at it alone. So people have made the same mistakes you have and learned from them, and make sure you don't do it any worse than they did. And they'll help guide you along the way.
Absolutely, that's what it's all about. Yep.
Who's someone in the industry you'd like to meet most? They could be alive or they could have passed on.
These are good questions. Yeah, rapid fire. I should be quicker. For Air Force, like fighter pilot flying, everyone probably says Robin Olds. I think it'd be cool to meet Robin Olds. I never met Chuck Yeager, legends like that. Civilian flying, I was a huge fan of Jim Leroy Aerobatics flying the Bulldog at air shows. And I got the chance to meet him, but I'd like the chance to talk to him one more time. Yeah.
Cool. All right. What's your favorite overall thing about aviation?
Community. Pilots, mechanics, all that.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. What's the hardest flight or approach you've ever flown?
Hardest approach? I probably mind dumped it. I think there was one I did in Alaska that was pretty challenging. Yeah, but I brain dumped it.
Yeah. Say Alaska. Blanket statement of Alaska in general.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yep.
Yeah. What's your favorite flight you've ever flown?
Favorite flight was in an F22 where we intercepted Russian aircraft off the coast of Alaska. Then got air refueled many times, and then got to go fly low level all throughout the rugged Alaska terrain for many hours. That was my favorite flight. Yeah.
This is a rapid fire, but what's it like getting the call to go intercept someone, knowing that if you just do one thing wrong with your finger, you could like launch World War III, you know, if you just accidentally hit the fire button instead of the don't fire button.
Yep. It's more mundane than you think. There's definitely excitement getting out to go do that. But we have plenty of safety measures in place to make sure we don't make a mistake like that. So it's more mundane than most people probably think, but it was still cool and I enjoyed it.
When you see a Russian fighter or a Chinese fighter or anything like that, is there like a sense of respect between the two? You know, you always hear about World War II, about how they kind of always respected each other, kind of like they knew who the top dog was in different sides, or is it kind of like I don't know what to say hatred, but does it feel? I mean, obviously, you're doing a mission, right? Like, so if you have to do something, you got to do something. But I guess just what's the feeling like between you and the other pilot, if there is one, if that makes sense?
I would like to think there's a mutual respect, certainly from our side as well. And we're going to treat them with respect and respect their capabilities as well. So certainly don't want to be complacent or overconfident. So I definitely think there's respect. Is that the case every time there's an intercept? I don't know. It could vary from country to country, person to person. But I can tell you on our side, we're trained to do those intercepts professionally.
You guys like waving at each other when you see each other? Like, hey, what's up?
I don't think we waved at all, but just stare at each other. Yeah,
that's funny. IFR or VFR? What would you rather fly?
VFR.
Favorite airport food? Let's say you're flying a Raptor. For some reason, you get a cross country and you get fuel on the ground rather than food.
I don't get to make it to many FBOs, sadly. Yeah.
You searching out barbecue, or what's your go-to if you ever got the chance?
You know, I'm a big fan of the FBOs that have the fancy espresso. So not food, but I do like the good coffee. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Would you rather fly over mountains, beaches, or cities?
Go mountains.
What's your favorite airline livery if you have one? Paint job.
I like Alaskan. I've said Alaska a lot, but I like the Alaskan livery.
Yeah, there you go. Would you rather fly the longest flight possible in your F22 or as many short trips as you possibly can?
I'd say probably short trips. I enjoy the experience. Yeah.
What was the hardest check ride you've ever flown?
That would go back to probably F22 certification flights as a 4-ship flight lead or instructor pilot. Yeah.
All right. And let's see. The other ones are kind of civilian based, so I won't ask those. But I'm guessing the answer is going to be Alaska. But what's your favorite airline?
That's a good question. I did like Alaska, but I don't live there anymore. So I've also flown Delta a fair amount. I think they do a good job.
There you go.
I don't know. We fly them all because we are just booking government tickets. And so whatever I'm flying that day tends to be my favorite. Yeah.
Whatever's the cheapest.
Yep.
That's what's up. Well, cool, man. Well, Razz, thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. You're doing some cool stuff, man, and hope to see you out in Oshkosh next year. We'll meet up, and you can tell me more of a story about your name, and I won't blast it. Don't worry. I'll keep it quiet.
No, I appreciate it. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, and thank you for having me. And we're stoked to be going back to Oshkosh. There's no better place on earth. So please hit me up, and we'll meet up, and you can come out and see the jets. So
I'd love to.